Hey guys! Today I'm drawing the iconic Audrey Hepburn. As always, I made a 1" by 1" graph on a photo and then a 2" by 2" graph on drawing paper so that I could sketch her face proportionately. Then I begin coloring in light areas of her face with the Prismacolor cream, and areas that are even more highlighted, such as the bridge of her nose and her right cheek, will be colored in with white. To blend out that cream, I'm using a color called Sand, which is slightly darker. And then to blend out sand, I'm going to be using a color called Yellow Ochre. Or maybe it's Ochre, I don't know how to pronounce that. I know it may seem off-putting to use yellow colors on the face, but in reality people do have those type of shades in their skin and it's amplified when light is hitting it. Despite that, I'm going to be using a color called Peach to tone down the yellows a little bit, to make her skin look a little bit more soft and make her not look like she has jaundice. Now in areas that are even more dark, such as under her eyes and in shadowed areas, I will be using a color called Light Umber. Now this color is a lot darker than the other colors I've been working with, so usually after I use it, I go back over it with Peach or Yellow Ochre to make it more subtle. And in areas like this where I want the color but I don't want it as dark, I use Light Umber first, but I use it very lightly, and then I go on top of it with Peach or Light Ochre even more darkly, so that I just get the Light Umber tones, but not the actual darkness of the color. Now the left side of her face is a lot more pink and peachy than the right side of her face, which is a lot more yellowy. So I started off by using Peach, and then I'm blending that out with Light Peach to cover most of her cheek. Also adding some of that Light Peach to other areas of her face to warm them up a little bit. And then I'm filling in any sparse areas or areas that I want to be lighter with the color Cream. Regardless of what you are trying to blend, cream is always the best color to use to blend. It just spreads the other colors out so much more evenly and doesn't change the colors. I'm using Sienna Brown to darken up some shadowed areas, but this color isn't as cool as the Light Umber color, it's more warm. And then I'm using Dark Umber to fill in the darkest areas like her nostrils and the creases of her eyes. Then I'm using French Gray. I know gray, again, on a face is kind of off-putting, but there are some shadowed areas that are gray, such as the crease of her eye and in her nose, so I'm using it there. Using a colorless blending pencil to blend everything I just did on the skin. And keep in mind that I can't film everything that I draw, so I did the neck and the ear off camera because if I showed everything I did, the video would be 3 days long. Okay, now I'm taking in Light Umber and filling in her eyebrows. Then I'm using that colorless blending pencil to make that a little bit more soft before I add in some hairs. Now I'm using Dark Umber to define the eyebrows a little bit more with individual strands of hair and making those very dark. And then adding some Sienna Brown before I blend it out. I'm using Dark Umber to color in the darkest areas of her eyes, which is around her iris. Then I am using Sienna Brown in parts of her iris and Light Umber in other parts of her iris. This is just because no one's eye is all one color. It looks much more realistic if you use several colors. Then I am coloring in her pupil with black. And she's wearing eyeliner in the photo, so I'm also using black to color that in. And then I'm adding some black underneath her eye where she is also wearing makeup, and blending that out with Light Umber to make it a little bit more natural. This is just her tear duct area. I'm using a mixture of black, light umber, and dark umber. I'm coloring in the reflective areas of her eyes with white, and then I'm going in with black on her eyeball to add some shadows. This makes the eyeball look more three-dimensional and much more realistic. Coloring in her waterline using that French gray again. To finish off the eyes, I am adding some eyelashes. Next, I will begin working on her mouth, and in shadowed areas I will be using light umber and blending that out nicely so that I can add some carmine red on top of those areas. Then, on top of that, I will be using the color Peach and using Peach to fill in almost the rest of her lips. Lastly, areas that are not filled in, I will be filling in with the color Cream. This is where the light hit the lips and there's not much color. Then I'll be going in with white to add a little bit more sheen, adding some lines with light umber because naturally our lips have some crooks and crevices. To finish it off, I'm blending it into the skin using a colorless blending pencil. Now I'm working on her earring, which is very simple. I'm just coloring in the ball part with slate gray and the upper part with metallic gold. Then to add more sheen, I'm going in with cream and highlighting areas on the gold part and highlighting areas on the blue part with white. Then to add a little bit more color, I'm using canary yellow on the gold section of the earring. Moving on to her hair, which is almost all black, so I'm shading in the black areas first. Now I'm using a mixture of black and light umber to blend that color out into her skin to make the transition more natural. Then I will be also using that light umber to shade in areas of her hair which are not totally black. I'm using a very sharp black pencil to add some lines into her hairline. Creates an even nicer transition between her hair and her face. Now I am using cream to highlight some areas in her hair. And lastly, I am going back with light umber and adding some extra strands of hair. And now it is finished. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please subscribe, like, or leave a comment below. Thank you so much.